I'm going to ask you about the Greater London Authority Land and Property Limited, which you'll be aware of is not only the freeholder of this site, but most of the Docklands, most of the Greenwich Peninsula. And you are, I'm sure, aware of Mayoral Decision 1180, published in 2013, so before your mayoralty, which describes a £300 million loan to GLAP, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the GLA, for them to start developing property. And under that mayoral decision, most of that money, 85% of that loan, would by now have been repaid. I'm sure you know that that's not quite what's happened. When did you become aware of that? And prior to 2018, which is when repayments were due to start, what action did you take to make sure that that plan was on track?
Which I'm aware, because of family reasons, the member wasn't at the Budget and Performance Committee meeting and Mayor's Question Time, where we've went over these issues, which I'm sure we can go over again today for your convenience. But just to remind colleagues, this was a £300 million loan given by the previous mayor to GLAP. David Bellamy, who has been close to this, can talk us through when we became aware of the issue of repayments and the reprofiling of debts. Before he does that, it's just worth, again, for the third time, reassuring the Assembly and those watching that the latest auditor's report has given the highest rating possible to this team. David.
If you'll forgive me, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure Mr. Bellamy is fully aware of it because he's a director of this limited company. What I'm interested in is, you as mayor, at what point did you become aware, and at what point did you start taking action to avert this problem? I'm
regularly briefed by my chief of staff on issues like this and other issues as well.
So you would have been aware then, presumably in 2016 when you were first elected. So what did you do between 2016 and 2018 to make sure that those repayments, when they were due to start in 2018, were on track? Because the reason they're not on track, it seems to me, is because development of those huge tracts of land is way behind. Your priority is supposed to be housing. We're now in 2025. You must have been very concerned in 2016, 2017, that when you were advised that in 2018, when that loan was due to start being repaid, the first 35 million on the 31st of March 2018, you must have been advised at some point that that wasn't going to happen, and that must have arisen in your mind then questions about why that wouldn't happen and what was being done about it to get the development back on track and the loan repaid.
Oh, the assumption we made is that the previous mayor had proper systems in place. I was probably wrong to assume that he had proper systems in place. It's my fault. I should have learned the lessons from the Garden Bridge and the water cannons. So we assumed.
You're telling me that 2 years into your mayoralty, you just casually assumed everything that was handed over from the previous mayor was all fine and dandy? That's halfway through your first mayoral term.
On some issues I did. And what we did was we assumed that the payments that had been profiled on old assumptions would bear fruit. And we also assumed that the deals made by the previous mayor were good ones, the development agreements he'd made. But we then discovered on this and on West Ham and other issues a lot of bad deals made by the previous mayor.
Okay, so the repayments were due to start. So you took over in 2016. The repayments were due to start in 2018. You obviously were aware then, surely, that this subsidiary was not making its loan repayment. So in 2019 and 2020 and 21 and 22 and 23 and 24, when loan repayments still weren't happening, what action did you take? You can't blame Boris for what was happening in those years. What action did you take, both to make sure the company was financially on track and to make sure, I would say more importantly for Londoners, that these huge tracts of developable land where tens of thousands of new homes should already have been built are not built? What action did you take in that period?
Well, we've gone over this in the Budget and Performance Committee and Mayor's question time, but a number of changes were made. It's just worth reminding colleagues that most of the projects were already in contract with developers, and he'll be aware the land receipts are often split across phases, and some of these timings depend on project processes. And so we realised that there'd be some delay in terms of some of the cash coming in because of the different phasing of the land. What we did do was to make sure there was changes made in relation to the financial scrutiny, including hiring of a dedicated accountant, quarterly budgets, cash flow assessments, the inclusion of financial metrics to measure GLAP's performance, and the reporting of financial impacts of project-level decisions to GLAP directors as part of their oversight and scrutiny of project process. We also made sure that we changed the systems that were set up by the previous mayor.
So those are all the things you did in 2024? Not one of those things was done in 2023 or 2022 or 2021 or 2020 or 2019 or 2018 or 17
I'm not sure
or
that's right.
16.
That's not right.
That's not
So
right.
which of those things were done before 2023?
Well, if the mayor reads the list again, I can
Don't read the whole
put a
list.
timescale against
Most of those
each
things,
of them,
most of
but
those
you
things were
don't
not
want
in
me to-
place by December 2023. I'm sorry.
So we have, through the last mayoral term, we went through a significant programme of reform around GLAP and its internal governance, which is why on the most recent audit it received substantial assurance. The root issue is, as the member's quite right, is one about delivery, and clearly the delivery, in large part under the development agreements entered into under the previous mayor, has not proceeded at the pace that was assumed when the previous mayor set out the loan repayment schedule. And that's why we and the officers who support us have worked very hard with our development partners to try and bring schemes forward as quickly as we can, while at the same time looking for whatever levers we've had to increase both the number of homes and the number of affordable homes on that site. And that's what we've been focused on doing, and that's what we continue to be focused on.
Okay. There's a lot of activity in year 9 of your mayoral term and a lot of blame of the previous mayor. Rest assured I will be returning to this topic. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next questioner, I'd like to welcome...
In the end, this exchange wasn't simply about accounting figures, loan schedules, or delayed building projects. It was about accountability, about who knew what and when. A £300 million loan, once hailed as a springboard for London's future housing, has become a symbol of political missteps, shifting blame, and years of missed opportunities. What began as an ambitious plan to unlock vast tracts of land and deliver tens of thousands of desperately needed homes has instead been bogged down in slow progress, broken timelines, and excuses traded back and forth between successive leaders. The Assembly members' pressing questions cut to the heart of the matter. If repayments were due in 2018, why did the alarms only seem to ring years later? And why, nearly a decade into this mayoral term, are Londoners still waiting for the results they were promised? The mayor's defense, pointing to inherited bad deals, flawed systems, and eventual reforms, raises an uncomfortable truth. The machinery of government, once set in motion, can stumble on for years before real oversight forces change. And by the time reforms are introduced, the damage is often already done: land underdeveloped, homes undelivered, trust eroded. But beneath the political sparring lies something far bigger: the hope of Londoners for affordable housing, for progress they can see and touch, not just promises deferred into another electoral cycle. In a city gripped by a housing crisis, every delay has a human cost. Families wait. Communities strain. And confidence in leadership withers. So when we look back on this saga, it will not simply be remembered as a dispute over balance sheets or repayment schedules. It will be remembered as a test of political will, a question of whether leaders rise to the urgency of their moment, or hide behind the shadow of their predecessors' mistakes. And as the Assembly member warned, this story is far from over. The questions will return, sharper and louder than before. Because in the end, Londoners deserve answers. They deserve homes. And they deserve leaders who deliver, not just explanations. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth political commentary, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of power and politics. Thanks for watching.